Alrighty, just going to have a bit of a look here at some factorising. Here we're not getting into completing the square. If you'd like to have a look at completing the square video, there is another video on my YouTube page. Now, whenever we start looking at our factorising problems, whenever we're looking at something like this, now this is a quadratic. Now the reason I know it's quadratic is because all quadratics have this sort of form: ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, now in this particular situation, my a value, my coefficient of x squared, my a value is equal to 1. My b value, okay, the coefficient of just x, that is equal to -3. And my c, my constant value, that is equal to -10. Now, whenever we are doing these questions, in order to factorise in the way I'm about to now, we need a to equal 1. In my next example that doesn't happen, I'll show you what we need to do. But we always want this a value equal to 1 here in order to do that. Now the first thing we need to start with is I need to find two numbers. Alright, now those two numbers need to multiply to equal -10. Alright, they need to multiply to equal -10. They need to add to equal -3. So the way I like to start these is just by simply, let's start by listing some multiples of -10 and see what works. Now remember, to get a -10 by multiplying, I need a positive and a negative number. Okay, so I'm just going to start with -1 times by 10. Now that does equal -10, but -1 plus 10, well, that equals 9. Not -3, so it can't be those two. What's another couple of numbers that multiply to equal -10? Well, we know 2 by -5 equals -10, and I also know that if I go 2 plus -5, that is going to give me -3. So that is my correct answer. Now, getting these two, okay, around the right way, which one's a negative, which one's a positive, okay, it does take some practice, because you might have done, yeah, -2 by 5 equals -10, and then -2 plus 5, well, that equals +3. Now when you're doing this, okay, we want the opposite of that. We want that -3, not that +3. Okay, the sign in front of the coefficient, that negative, that takeaway, that matters. Alright, so that's how, okay, I knew that I wanted this combination, not this combination. Okay, not -2 and +5, I want +2 and -5. Okay, these values. Now once I've worked that out, I open up two sets of brackets. Alright, this is a +2, so we put a +2. This is a -5, so I put a -5, and that's my answer there. The next question I'm going to look at, now this one involves with my a value, that coefficient of x squared not being equal to 1. So for this particular question, I'm just going to draw a line through here. In our format ax squared plus bx plus c, our standard quadratic format, for this particular question, a equals 2, b equals 22, and c equals 36. Now what I need to do here is I want this a equal to 1. Okay, I don't want this 2 here. Now I can't just take it out. What I can do is I can factorize my whole expression by a factor of 2, because these are all even numbers. So what I do, I have 2 times what equals 2x squared. Well, that's going to be x squared. Alright, if I expand it out, 2 times what is going to give me 22x. That's going to be plus 11x. Now 2 times what is going to give me positive 36. Well, that's going to be plus 18. Now for my new equation, my new bit of my quadratic, just my bit in the brackets, for this I now have a is equal to 1, B is equal to 11, and C is equal to 18. I've achieved this. I've got this A equals 1 value, okay? Ignoring the 2 for now, it will come in later. Just looking at my brackets, just looking at this bit in here, I now do the same as what I did with my previous question, okay? I'm now going to look for 2 numbers that multiply to equal 18, but add to equal 11. Now again, I'm not great with my times tables, so let's just start with 1 and 18. Always start with 1 and yet constant. Now 1 times 18, well yeah, that does equal 18, but 1 plus 18, well that equals 19, so it's not that combination, it's not 1 and 18. The next 2 numbers, 2 and 9, okay? Just halve your 18, halve that constant, times it by 2, see if it works. Now we know 2 times 9 is 18, and 2 plus 9 happens to be 11, so cool. Alright, this is my combination, 2 and 9. Alright, so now what I do, same as what I did here, I open up 2 sets of brackets, but instead, this 2 needs to come down, this one still matters. X here, X here, this is a positive 2, this is a positive 9, positive 9. And that's my final answer. Just there. Working out like this, okay, if you, when you're doing this in a test or exam, listing this here, alright, not a problem. Okay, as long as you've clearly shown what you're doing, okay, and you're not getting in the way, you've not jumbled it up everywhere, this is fine, spot on. The next thing I'm going to look at is a little bit trickier. Now, with this sort of question, alright, we've got 4 terms, and we've got this extra variable A, okay. Now, again, with we're looking at any of these sort of things, first thing we need to look at is, do they have any common factors? Is there anything that all of these have that I can factor out? 3x squared, negative 6ax, well, 3 and x goes into those 2, x goes into that, but I don't have anything that goes into all 4, okay? And because I don't have anything that goes into all 4, and that there are 4 terms, alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's a big hint that I'm going to use my factorising by grouping. Now, what that means is, I'm just going to write this again underneath. So what I need to do first, I'm just going to put some brackets in here. Now, you'll notice I didn't put the operation between there. I didn't just put this plus straight in. Now the reason for that is, if I was to ignore this bit, and I had negative 7x, if I did have a little plus there, okay, it's very light because I need to draw over it, negative 7x plus 14a, if I drag that plus down, if I was to expand those brackets, there's like an imaginary negative 1 out the front here. Now, negative 1 times 7x, yep, that gives me negative 7x, cool. But negative 1 times positive 14a, well, that doesn't give me 14a, okay, positive here. Negative and a positive makes a negative, okay. I need a positive here. So I just need to change this sign to a negative, not a positive, change it to a negative, okay. If this middle sign, alright, this joining operation is a negative, alright, if it is a negative, you must change the next operation to the opposite, okay. So if middle operation is negative, we need to change the next operation, alright, to the opposite. Otherwise it won't work, okay? That is important. If the middle operation, so this one here, is a negative, you must change the next operation to the opposite. It was a positive, I've changed it to a negative. Alright. Now we just look at these brackets separately, okay? Cover up that bit. Is there a common factor between 3x squared and negative 6ax? Absolutely, 3x goes into both of these, so I factor it out. 3x times what gives me 3x squared? X, 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times what gives me negative 6ax? Well, that's just going to be negative 2a. Alright, subtract. Now, again, just look at these brackets, okay? Ignore the sign, ignore the operation for now. What goes into both 7x and negative 14a? The only common factor between those two is a 7. So that comes out here. Again, ignoring my sign for now. 7 times what gives me 7x? X. 7 times what gives me negative 14a? Negative 2a. Alright. Now, what do we notice about my two sets of brackets? This one and this one, they are the same. Okay? That means our factorizing by grouping, which is what we are doing here, that means it's worked. If you get to this point and these two things are not the same, you've either made a small mistake or factorizing by grouping will not work. Okay, it won't work. These must be the same for this to work. Because these are the same, I'm just going to take one of them. X take 2. Okay. For our next lot of brackets, alright, because we still want to get sort of two sets of brackets multiplied by each other, I just take my coefficients of these brackets. 3x and negative 7 and negative 7. And that is my final answer. Right, that there. And you'll find if you expanded this, x times 3x is 3x squared, x times negative 7 is negative 7x, 2a times 3ax, and then 2a times negative 7, we are going to get all these values here. Remember, you could also write this like this. 3x rather, take 7, x take 2. Alright, they're the two ways we could have written that one. Next question I'm going to have a bit of a look at is some expanding. Alright, now hopefully we're aware that expanding and factorizing, they are opposites of each other. Okay, expanding is getting rid of brackets from an equation, okay, multiplying out those common factors. Factorizing is taking out those common factors. Alright, so what we need to do with a question like this is a method called FOIL, alright, which stands for first, outside, inside, last. So I look at my first term of each bracket, x and x, and I times them together. Okay, x times x, x squared. And then look at O, outside, alright? The two furthest terms away from each other. And I times those two. X times positive 5, which is going to be plus 5x. I stands for inside. I then do times these two here together. 7 times x. And 7 times x is positive 7x. 7 times 5, because they are my last terms in my bracket. 7 times 5 is positive 35. Now I'm not quite done, because I can simplify these two here by getting x squared plus 5x plus 7x. Alright, 5 plus 7 is 12 plus 35. Alright, that is my final answer. Next one with expanding we're going to have a quick look at is x take 8 squared. Now remember, I cannot stress this enough. X take 8 squared rather changes into x take 8 multiplied by itself. Okay, x take 8. Right, it is not x squared take 8 squared. Okay, No, wrong. Don't do it. Alright, not right. We must do it like this, then use our FOIL method. Alright, so we're going to do the same sort of thing. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8 is negative 8x. Negative 8 times x is another negative 8x. Negative 8 times negative 8 is positive 64. Okay, you must include the signs in front of the numbers. Alright. Collect my like terms. Negative 8x, take 8x. Negative 8 subtract 8 is negative 16x plus my constant plus 64. Again, stop there because that's my answer. Next one I'm going to look at, okay, we're still going to use our FOIL method, alright, but this time this isn't just x, okay, it's 8x and 8x here, alright, now but we're still going to use FOIL, first two terms, 8x times 8x, now 8 8s are 64, x times x is x squared, okay, you're doing this whole lot together. My outside terms, 8x times by positive 7, now 8 times 7 is 56. Again, use your calculator if you're not sure. Alright, if you're able to. Next one, inside, negative 7 times 8 is negative 56x. Negative 7 times positive 7 gives me negative 49. Now again, collect our like terms. 64x squared. Positive 56x take 56x is just 0, so they just cancel, take 49. Just like that. Alright, final answer. The last couple of questions I want to go through, okay? Alright, similar sort of things, but just a little bit different, just so we've got plenty of examples. Again, still use our FOIL, okay? 4x times 3x. Alright, it's going to be 12x squared. Alright, 4x times positive 2. Okay, positive 8x. Inside terms, 5 times 3x gives me 15x. 5 times 2 gives me positive 10. Collect my like terms, 12x squared, 8 plus 15 is positive 23. Okay, and then just my plus 10 on the end. Final answer there. Next one, similar sort of one to before, but remember, again, this becomes 5x plus 6 multiplied by itself. That's what squared means. Multiplied by itself again. It is not, okay, 25x squared plus 36, okay? No, don't do it. This is not what it is, okay? Not that. We must do it like this. This whole bracket is squared, hence we have to multiply everything by itself, okay? So now, again, still just use our FOIL. 5x times 5x, 25x squared. 5x times 6, okay, 5x times 6 is going to be plus 30x. 6 times 5x is going to be another plus 30x, and 6 times 6 is plus 36. Collect my like terms, 25x squared, 30 and 30 is 60x plus 36. Alright, stop there. Okay, answer. And lastly, very last question I'm going to do. Okay, looks quite easy. Okay, but these negatives is where we need to be very careful. Okay, again, I want to multiply this by everything inside my bracket. So negative 4x times by 1 is just negative 4x, and negative 4x times by negative 4x gives me positive 16x squared. Okay, these negatives, got to make sure you're checking them and you're careful with those.